Kohberger. Is that the right way to say his last name?
I think so. Bryan Kohberger. Yes.
What a creep. What a bad dude. What a unlikable person. Like, I didn't even want to talk to you about this case too much because I do want to, because it'll be fun to have a discussion about the criminal law. But what an unlikable person at the center of this case. Somebody who just comes from a background of studying criminology, getting a PhD in criminology or attempting to, learning about evidence, how to hide evidence, how to go about committing crimes, or how criminal psychology works. An expert on crime, and then he goes and commits the senseless killing where he kills 4 absolutely beautiful, innocent college students for no reason whatsoever. What a disgusting person. What are we going to talk about with this case?
Well, the question is, why does a guy like this with a family background that's completely normal do something like this? And, I don't know if you know anything about his background, but he was a big guy. He was a corpulent person, a little overweight. He was bullied when he was younger. And he lost a lot of weight. And instead of becoming more empathetic, he became a bully himself. There's a psychologist by the name of Vicky Ward who did a really good study on Kohberger, analyzing why he did what he did. And she actually aligned him with, I forgot what his name was, the UCSB, the Santa Barbara killer. They call him the involuntary cell killer. He basically modeled himself after that. He fantasized about why this guy at UCSB killed all those girls. Do you remember years ago that happened? Mm-hmm. And why did he kill them? Remember, because they were beautiful and they weren't paying attention.
It was kind of an incel reaction to being a male who gets no female attention, not getting the gratification of having a woman go out with you or say yes to any kind of request. It was like rejection of women that drove that killer, right?
Yeah,
is that the same in Bryan Kohberger? Is it a rejection of women?
Well, it wasn't a rejection of women. They have a theory about that. But before I go into that, so it was Elliot Rodger was the person that killed all these women, and he made a video of it saying that they had it coming to them. Kohberger was fascinated by Elliot Rodger also. He was sympathetic. He watched his videos. He understood. The theory is that one of the girls who he killed, her name is Maddie Mogan, I believe, and she worked at the Mad Greek restaurant. Apparently, Bryan Kohberger was seen there, and it is hypothesized that he asked her out, and she probably said no, and that was the crux, or what manifested his fascination with her. And then there was apparently a lot of metadata that showed that he went to her house, stood in front of her house, watched what time she came in. She was the target, by the way. The other 3, they were not the target. They were just collateral damage, unfortunately.
She was the main target?
She was the main target, yeah.
Whoa, okay.
They were
I didn't know that.
They were fighting wounds on all of them, but he went to kill her because he parked in front of her place. He had her visual window. He went straight to her, walked over, planned this, by the way. He planned it for months because he walked very calmly, coolly, right inside the place, straight to her. And the family believes there was going to be sexual assault committed against her because of the fighting, the personal wounds. So they think that she was basically stopping a molestation or getting raped. And he killed her at that point in time. The other people at that point in time woke up, were in the place.
They were in the same home.
Yes.
3 other people.
Yes.
So his intention, we think, was to go and kill this one young lady.
Not kill. I think the intention was to go sexually assault her, maybe sleep with her, and then things just went awry from there.
And you don't think he would have planned to kill her to hide the evidence?
I think that it was planned that he was a criminal PhD study. He probably thought about the backup plan. Heaven forbid if this goes south, what am I going to do? Because he almost got away with everything. The only reason he got caught is because he left the cover of a knife, a sheath, with, I think, 1 drop of blood.
Some of his DNA was on
there. And they have no DNA on him, by the way. So how do you match somebody with no DNA match? And he was not letting
We'll get into that, but before we do, so if his goal was to go to kill one single girl or sexually assault her, that lends credence to this idea that he's sort of an incel. He's like coming at it from this incentive or motivation of a man who has not had success with the ladies, who doesn't get attention from women, who feels no sense of equality or power or control in the presence of a woman instead feels powerless, diminished, weak, incel, useless, whatever you want to call it. And therefore, in fulfilling this fantasy of hurting, or let's go further, killing this young, beautiful woman, he's becoming powerful. In his own mind, he's somehow becoming powerful, in control of the scenario. We think it's a horrifying way, but in his twisted mind, it's still control, and his ego somehow gets soothed by this.
Well, that's a psychological issue. I'm not a psychologist, but I can tell you that I've spoken to psychologists, and I'm going based on what the psychologists are saying. And a lot of the psychologists that I'm following right now are saying that this is pretty much just like the Elliot Rodger case, that he was motivated by his sexual prowess, the fact that he was rejected. They have some information, and I'm sure it's going to come to light that he was at the Mad Greek house where Madeline, one of the girls that was killed, was working there, and that would make sense. Her name is actually Madison Mogan. So Maddie Mogan was working there, and I'm sure they interviewed people at that Mad Greek house, and they said, "Oh,
well, the Mad Greek was a restaurant, right?"
Yeah. So, these are all theories that they have, but it makes complete sense. And another theory is that he really lacked a lot of emotion. They thought he had sociopathic behavior at an early onset in his life. It's very possible that he also did this. Part of the reason is because he wanted to feel what it's like to kill somebody. Because he took all of the classes, and in his mind is thinking, I've got enough knowledge to do this, feel what it's like, and get away with it. And the reason why I believe he did that is because why I think that theory is true, because after the murders, he was on Reddit or some other chat lines talking about the murder in third person, saying something to the effect of, if they did it, it would be because of this. It would be personal and this. And he threw his theories in there, which was basically projecting how he felt. That would have been used against him.
This guy got way too deep into criminology study.
Yeah.
To the point where he became a literal murdering criminal.
So he became the murderer, and he wanted people to talk about him because he wanted to stay relevant. He wanted to feel what it was like for people to know what he did. So it's a psychological phenomenon. It's almost like Ted Bundy. Do you remember Ted Bundy?
Yeah.
He was a brilliant student. He could have went to, I think, Yale University or a top Ivy League school. He lured women after he raped them with fake scenarios. He had a fake cast on his leg, a fake cast on his arm. He put them inside the van. He sexually assault them, rape them, and kill them. He's still being studied. His brain is actually being studied till today regarding why a guy would become that skewed. Even the judge was like, it's a shame. You're just so smart. You would have been an excellent, he represented himself, by the way. He said, you would have been an excellent lawyer. I would have loved to have you in my court. I don't know where you went wrong. There are some people I find in my practice that there are what I call human defects. They're humans that when I talk to them, they're not normal. There's something wrong with them, something wrong that happened years and years ago. I look at them when I see their eyes, it's like they have ice in their eyes. I could see right through their soul and they have no soul, like that kind of situation. And I've interviewed a lot of these people, murderers, rapists, child molesters. So, so
either their moral compass is off or their sense of empathy or sympathy, they just don't have
both.
that. So it's like looking at a ghost or a shark, like a heartless,
that's right,
soulless creature.
And there are humans like that. It's hard to imagine. That's why we have difficulty in the news. How can somebody do something?
I've definitely met a few.
I could tell you doing my business, Bryan Kohberger, I've met many Bryan Kohbergers, maybe not on a serial killer basis, but somebody with no empathy, somebody that doesn't care, somebody that's willing to hurt somebody else just so they can know what it feels like, whether it's for, pain, whether it's to replicate another sense of emotion that somebody else had, like Elliot Rodger. So he's a sociopath for all intents and purposes.
So just to parse it, I think we're talking about two slightly different motivations here, both of them sick and twisted, but a little bit different on the spectrum. Like one of them has to do with women and being rejected and being bullied and feeling isolated and not included with the cool people, particularly attractive girls. From an incel standpoint, from this very male, disenchanted male energy and angst that has nowhere to go but to this horrifying crime. But that one to me directly relates to women. But then there's this other thing which doesn't really relate to women, where you're saying he just wanted to feel what it's like to kill or to get away with it, the thrill of it. I've seen other analysis online say that prosecutors might even think that he was doing it to see if he could get away with the crime, almost like from a criminology motivation. Like, how good of a student am I? Am I good enough to outsmart the police and the legal system? Again, that's super different than feeling rejected by women, right? Totally different motivations. Which one do we feel is closer to the truth?
Well, I could tell you there's some eerie coincidences between this case and the other case of, what was his name? The guy in Elliot Rodger. Both, by the way, coincident. The people they killed, the people they were fascinated with, were named Maddie. Both were blonde. Both were rejected. So I think the characteristics are the same. I think the reasoning is almost the same. It's basically, well, something to the effect of, I got to have you. If I can't have you, then screw it. Nobody can have you.
That's love and passion and infatuation. And
it's obsessive compulsive behavior, sociopathic behavior.
Wanting to control somebody.
You build an image in your brain about how can they do this to me? This is what I've been told by psychologists. How can they do this to me?
They're rejecting
me. I'm a nice guy. How dare she do this? And then it builds from there. It festers. Again, I'm not a psychologist, what I'm explaining, and then it pimps up.
But we're not saying Maddie, God rest her soul, rejected Bryan. We're not necessarily, we're thinking that factually may have happened. They may have interacted at the Mad Greek,
right,
or elsewhere. She may have actually rejected him.
Yes.
And he might have been specifically motivated by that to go into that house.
Yes. Yeah, that's a theory, that he was specifically motivated, and the fact that, well, I think it's more than that, because he had the tools with him. Like, why is he taking a knife with him? Why? I think he knew or had reason to know that it may go south and he might have to do something harmful to these people, but he didn't care because he knew he could get away with it. In his mind, he almost did get away with it. Getting back to the DNA, he left a little sheath on the of blood on the bed where he killed Maddie. Very sloppy, by the way. He just walked out, and he walked out nonchalantly. He killed other people when they tried to attack him. Okay. He killed them also on the way out, basically, the other people that were collateral damage. But he left a sheath. And the only way they caught him is reverse genealogy, basically, where they took his blood and they went to companies like 23andMe and these other DNA companies, and they put it in a system to see who would it match in the whole world, essentially. And everybody that it matched were relatives of his. So they said, oh, this matches Bryan's dad, his uncle, his so-and-so. It must be Bryan.
Which is fascinating, because if you're sitting at home thinking, well, I've never given my saliva or any samples to these DNA private companies like 23andMe or whatever.
Right.
So they're not going to track me down.
That's right.
But they will, because
now they can.
They can just track down anyone else who shares any similarity to your DNA as a sibling, as a first order relative, maybe second order relative. Yep. I don't know how broad that spectrum goes.
Pretty broad.
If some of them have submitted samples, then they can triangulate these people and go, wait, who else was related to them in this city? Oh, Bryan Kohberger.
Yeah. I'm going to even go so far as to say, I'm going to make a statement. I think the days of serial murders are over. It's going to be very, very hard. In the 70s, it was a thing. Son of Sam, you didn't have cameras. All you had is a piece of hair. We didn't have DNA back then. We were like, what the hell is this? Now it's game over. We have DNA. We have reverse genealogy. We have reverse DNA. I mean, they could do a million different things. We got cameras everywhere. It's game over for serial murders.
So he left behind the sheath to the knife.
Yeah.
He never left behind the murder weapon, the knife. It was never found, interestingly.
Right. Yeah. Well, he got rid of it, obviously.
So he got rid of it in some kind of a good enough way where the authorities haven't been able to track it down.
Right.
Maybe due to his criminology studies.
I'm sure. He might have put it in some sort of machine to burn it.
He went to incredible lengths, I'm sure, to get rid of that murder weapon.
But the sheet, the cover.
Cover.
He probably never thought about that till he went home. He probably was like, oh, darn. I can't believe I forgot that MFR. But he probably felt comfortable, which is, by the way, why I think he went on those chat lines. He was on those chat lines in third person talking about the fact that they're going to have a difficult time figuring out who it is. They don't have DNA. He didn't know they were going to do a reverse thing on him. He was feeling the people out on the internet as far as, can they catch me? I mean, if you read, it's kind of eerie.
Almost like fishing for ideas.
Yes,
like what might they try?
Discussions.
So in none of the classes he took on how to kill people and get away with it with a knife, I'm kind of kidding, but in his criminology courses, I guess nobody used a sheath. Nobody had a knife cover.
I don't know why he took a knife cover with him. Why he was? That's just an extra thing that's going to be that you have to discard.
Dumbass.
So yeah, he wasn't. That wasn't smart.
So he left that behind. Also, his Hyundai that he drove was spotted on some cameras around the area.
I think so.
Yeah. And then there was his phone pinging towers, but not at the moment of the crime. So there was digital timestamp evidence of his phone near the crime scene before the murders.
Yes.
And after the murders, but just not during. So he flipped something off. Maybe he put it into airplane mode, or he just turned off. I don't think turning off the phone would do it. You have to really
Not
stop.
anymore.
You got to stop pinging the towers.
Yeah.
He did something that he learned in his criminology class, and then he did the killing. But the problem is before and after, it already pinged the towers.
So there are some case covers. I was told by my clients, if you don't want the ping to happen, they sell case covers that you could put it inside, and there's no more connection apparently. So he might have had some sort of gadget like that he put a cover on there.
Whatever he did, he completely failed, because before and after the crime, he was still still located at the crime scene. What else went wrong?
Well, he was going to use his father as an alibi, by the way. He was in the beginning, he was floating that idea. His dad was saying, "Oh, I'm going to testify. I'm going to testify." I think that one of the reasons he took this deal is because he realized that if the DNA comes back as a match, there's no point of putting my dad through his torture. He wanted to avoid the death penalty.
What is the DNA match telling us scientifically? It's telling us that on the cover of the knife at the crime scene, there was DNA that relates to Bryan Kohberger's relatives who put in samples.
So they did a process of an elimination. They took the DNA and they matched it with, let's just say, 5, 10 people in this family. And they did something like a reverse math when they said the odds of him not being that are like 1 out of 5 trillion.
So it's got to be somebody in the Kohberger family.
Yeah. The odds of him not being related to this is 1 out of 5 trillion. Therefore, he is related. Therefore, it is him.
So somebody who shares DNA with the Kohberger family. It's not the 5 we matched, who are just innocent people across the country who sent in samples to 23andMe, so to speak. But this one guy, Bryan Kohberger, is close to the scene. He's pinging cell phone towers at the murder site. He's got a Hyundai that's on surveillance camera that's nearby. By the way, he also switched out his plates for paper plates when he left the scene. So he swapped out and put paper plates on to drive out of state, which probably bought him some time. Although I don't think it did, because he was being trailed via air. He was being trailed the entire time, I think. They were already on to him, apparently. But that could be, I don't know, is that fake news? They weren't trailing him when he drove out of state?
I'm not sure, but I could tell you the DNA, they called that a statistical match.
Yeah.
What that meant is that the DNA on his sheath profile meant that it was highly likely that it came from him based on genetic genealogy, which I told you they used a DNA database to find potential relatives of the individual samples. But they were going to make an argument that was not, the DNA wasn't good. The DNA was, they're going to challenge the evidence, saying that the collection methods, the use of the private databases, and the potential for human error was really high. So they were going to dispute it, but he capitulated. And at the last minute, he took a deal, which means to me, his attorneys probably told him, "Bryan, we're not going to be able to fight this DNA evidence. It's going to be really tough. If you want, now is a time that we could get rid of the death penalty."
So they saved his life.
This is the only way we're going to do it. You do it now today, or we put your dad on a stand, or whatever the defense is, and then you get the death penalty.
So he was up against the death penalty, and his defense team capitulated. They folded essentially and said the best service we could provide our client is to essentially save his life and get him 4 consecutive lifetimes.
And I'm going to throw a theory out here that nobody's ever said on the internet regarding why he did this also. I have a theory that he cut a deal with the prosecution and said something to the effect of, "I'm willing to admit to the murders, and I'm willing to help you out and tell you why I did it. You could study me. You could talk to me, question me. You could use me for future profiling," because they do murder. They use people like him to assist. And why would somebody do that? Kind of like Hannibal Lecter. Do you remember Silence of the Lambs? Mm-hmm. It's the same situation. So he could have told the prosecutor that, "Let me help you guys in the future. I will tell you minimum why I did what I did." And that would actually be something the prosecution would want, because they want to study people like him to see if they could avoid these kinds of things in the future. So that would be another added benefit to the prosecution and to Mr. Kohberger.
He thinks he's going to meet Jodie Foster.
He's going to meet a psychologist. She might not look like Jodie Foster, but he's definitely going to be talking to psychiatrists and psychologists about why he did what he did. There's going to be studies on him, just like Ted Bundy. Years later, They got him to admit that he did it when they spoke in third person. They asked him, like, why would somebody do this? And he spoke in third person, like, well, if somebody did do this, they would do it because. That's a fact. Ted Bundy did that. He basically confessed to everything he did. They're going to do the same thing with Bryan Kohberger. They're going to try to talk to him for years and years and years, and there's going to be a study on why he did it, and that study's going to come out, just like Ted Bundy's study.
Well, he'll be in prison forever.
Yeah.
Kind of too bad he doesn't get the death penalty, in my opinion. But our hearts go out to the families of the 4 innocent, beautiful young people killed completely senselessly by this monster.
Yeah, and it was a senseless death in every shape of the word and terms. And sorry to say, they were fighting to the end. You know, they were fighting to live. They had struggled,
as they should be,
and they couldn't be identified. Their faces couldn't be identified because it was so grueling. The injuries were so bad. So
I can't believe this guy's that powerful physically. I mean, there's 4 people, but it was probably consecutive. It was probably one after the other, and they were never able to gang up on him. I don't know.
There were marks that showed they were fighting back on him, but I think what happened was the first person was killed first, and then the others may have woken up to that, and then that's how they got killed. That's my understanding. That he basically they got involved after the fact, and I do want to express my condolences to the families of Ethan Chapin, Zaina, Kernodle, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Gonclaves. Their family must be going through a terrible ordeal. I saw them testify at the hearing, saying that Bryan Kohberger shouldn't get this deal, that he doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve to live. But again, I think the reason why they gave him this deal, most of the time the prosecution would say, I don't care, I want to give you the death penalty, we're going to do the trial. I think that they didn't want to risk the DNA issue because that was the first time they're going to do that in my book that I remember.
Is it the first time? I've heard of it before.
To do a reverse, it's
yeah. I've heard of them triangulating a person based on family member submission.
So that's a new technology.
Yeah,
So,
a few years ago we had a pretty high profile.
Fair enough,
case.
but I would not want to take that risk. And I'm sure the attorney told him we don't have a big chance of winning. So what do you want to do? Do you want to take a deal where you could eventually just live for the rest of your life? And he's so arrogant and narcissistic. I think he thought in his brain, this is just conjecture on my part. Hey, listen, that's not a bad deal. I get to live. I get to talk to people. I get to read more about, he gets to read his file. He gets to read about psychology. I mean, the guy gets to live. So it is a win from his point of view, but from the family's point of view, it's an outrage.